If you grew up in an Asian household, boundaries were probably a foreign concept. It was never as easy as saying, I'm not going to pick up calls during work hours and expecting your parents not to call. So, is setting boundaries with Asian parents possible, or is it a lost cause? Welcome to Spilling the Jasmine Tea, where we unpack identity, belonging, and the taboo topics that we grew up whispering about, like boundaries, which is the topic of today's episode. One of my most notable lessons about boundaries was when I wanted to move out, but I felt super guilty, like choosing myself meant that I was abandoning my parents. Through my therapist, I learned that this was likely due to enmeshment, when a person's identity gets tangled up with someone else's needs. But when I finally honored what was right for me and moved out, I actually had a better relationship with my parents. And that's when I really understood that quote by Prentice Hemphill: boundaries are the distance where I can love you and me simultaneously. In this episode, Vianne and I share hot tea on what setting boundaries looks like for us, the guilt, the resentment, and the freedom that comes after. We invite you to join our listening ritual, so brew yourself a cup of tea, maybe jasmine, and sip along as we spill the jasmine tea. We were thinking of exploring the topic of boundaries with our parents, or the lack thereof.
Yep.
Often.
With Asian immigrant parents.
Yes.
Yeah.
So a couple of years ago when I was in Vietnam with my mum, and my sister was also there, but my grandma was on her deathbed and we were caring for her. She needed 24-hour care. So I had just done night shift and I'd slept for 2 hours, and my mom really urgently shook me and woke me up. Like, go see your grandma, she needs something. And at that time, 2 hours of sleep, I thought she died. Got out, ran downstairs, and then it turned out it was just an issue with her wound dressing that I had talked about previously. And I got so mad. It was just my nervous system was shook. It was like
you were sleeping.
Exactly. And 2 hours of sleep in the context is already emotionally distressing. And I felt like my mom didn't respect my boundaries, me as a whole human being. She just thinks that I'm an extension of her, so she can do whatever she wants with me, and the expectations she can put on me is expecting me to drop everything at her beck and call.
Yeah, my child is my helper. Expectation is very real.
Yes, especially for immigrant parents, right? We can be compassionate and be like, they came to a new country, started with nothing. They literally had to build everything themselves. So they're just exhausted and they want the help. But then you're the daughter of the immigrant parents, and then that burden is placed on you, and it's also exhausting.
And I don't know if you've seen those, little TikToks or memes of the 7-year-old being asked to translate mortgage documents and things like that. So they're not even often old enough to really know what's happening either.
Yeah. Did you have any experiences like that?
I really resonate with the whole lack of boundaries with parents, or that just wasn't a thing, that I am also expected to just help and do whatever my parents ask or expect. I guess the example that comes to mind first is the extent of no boundaries. And things like being asleep, you would think that if someone's asleep, that's the boundary. You can't disturb them because they're unconscious. But as you've explained already, I had the same thing where if it was, actually not even if it was an urgent issue, it was more like if my mum had something on her mind, she would come into my room and just start talking, all the lights are off. I was trying to sleep. And so I remember being like, I don't think this is normal that the sleep is disturbed because I have to answer this question.
That really non-urgent question as well often.
I felt like it was non-urgent. So yes, maybe it was a difference in the prioritizing, but it didn't feel urgent to me.
Yeah. There's the part of us that wants to be compassionate. For them, especially people who have fled wars, there was a time and a period where any noise or any particular news or just everything was urgent. Everything was life or death. And so their nervous system just gets wired that way. And if they haven't learned to regulate it, if they haven't done that kind of work, the nervous system's just stuck like that. So now my mum fled the Vietnam War, both my parents fled the Vietnam War. Any kind of sudden sound, she'll just be like, all up in arms, get really worked up, and then realize it was nothing. And she's like, oh, okay.
Same.
Yeah.
I do think their nervous system is constantly dysregulated, probably for decades. And the things that I see other people move on from or not get stressed about, it does really just disarm them, and it is really hard to come down from. I think we were talking about that example of if you've driven through a yellow light, one way of thinking is, I've already done it. So if I get fined, whatever happens, because I can't go back and change the past. Yeah. But I know that my mum would just ruminate and not stop talking about it for ages. And I think it's that not being able to process and regulate, calm the feelings, probably from that extended survival mode. Yeah, which is like from the war, but then also from coming to a new country. And again, that's still survival for a long time. It's like everything, like I think my parents are still in survival mode for the most part. It's like they are still extremely frugal. They still work 6 days a week at the bakery that they own. Wow. Yeah. I was curious that what are your parents' boundaries for themselves? There's boundaries between us and our parents, and what are their boundaries? That's such a good question. Honestly, my mom has no boundaries. She's anyone kind of thing. With anyone. I think it's like a very typical Asian woman, Asian wife thing of I have no needs. I sacrifice all my needs for everyone else. My husband, my kids. I can't ask for anything. My mom would never ask anyone else for help. She asked me and my sister. She would never ask anyone else for help. Like I remember my grandma, the first time we thought she was on her deathbed, but she was here in Australia. She needed 24/7 care. And so it was me, my mom, and my aunt at the house. And so it was just the three of us. In Vietnam, there's 11 brothers and sisters, and then all the nieces and nephews and all of that. So there's a lot of people to rotate through, but at home it was just 3 people, 24-hour care. And it's like my uncle, who is the child of my grandma, is around. He has a wife and 2 kids. Why can't we ask them for help? At that time, I think it was just one cousin here. Why can't we add them to the rotation? It's like, no, we have to do everything ourselves. We have to seem like we're so self-sufficient, so perfect to the world, and just keep the chaos within ourselves. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Reluctance to ask for help or just not wanting to burden others. Even if I maybe, from what you said, I'm also thinking like it only sounds fair to include those other family members that are here. Yeah. Do you think it has something to do with saving face as well? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The picture of we are a perfect family, we have no issues, we're always happy, we have no problems. As in, if we just stick with this example, like your mum individually is, I can do it, and then by extension, that immediate family is like, we've got it under control. Yeah. Kind of to me, it feels like sometimes my mum thinks that I'm just an extension of her. And so whatever like she needs is like my needs. And whatever I do is a reflection of her. I relate to that and how I felt like it was hard to be allowed to be upset or have any sort of negative feelings growing up because of that reflection. If I'm grumpy, it means the whole family's grumpy. Yeah. And when you're a teenager, you're just grumpy so much. Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. But yes, never allowed to express it. Yeah. So I want to know, like, how do you deal with setting boundaries with your mum or your parent? I think it's definitely been a very years-long journey. The first example that I can think about is one of the boundaries was around expectations. I realized there are a lot of unspoken expectations or things that just are never verbalized. Oh my gosh, like 100%. A tiny example is, and I'm just making this up to demonstrate how small the example is, if we were eating and my mum expected me to invite her to come eat and she's already said, start eating. But in my mind, that just means start eating. But no, it was a test of I was supposed to invite her. Yeah. And that then she would get upset that I didn't do it. And she'd be upset, grumpy the whole night. And then just as I'm going to sleep or probably in my room, like lights off, and then she comes in and will say, I'm so disappointed. You didn't do this. Yeah. And so one of the boundaries I've set is really saying it very frequently that for those types of expectations, my line is, if you test me in this way, I'll always fail your tests. I can't read your mind. So that's what she would say, is that I've failed her test, I've disappointed her, and I've had to say, I will always fail them unless you tell me what you want. Unless you say, I want you to invite me more often.
Which I think is so hard for Asian mums to ask for what they want.
It's so true. And where they've started from is really different. I was reading a memoir of a Vietnamese Australian, We Are Here, by Kat Thao Nguyen.
Beautiful.
And she mentioned, I think it was in her mum's generation, I might get this wrong, but I feel like she said amongst 4 sisters, they shared one pair of pants.
Whoa.
At one point. So asking for something you want, when you think about like, where have they come from? Okay, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And I also remember when I asked my grandma, what's your favourite food, Grandma? And she'd say, I'm just happy to have food to eat. I don't have a favourite. Like, anything is good. And I was like, oh.
Oh my God. Really makes you reflect on your privilege.
Oh my gosh, totally. That perspective is so different where we come from of, I feel uncomfortable, I'm going to ask someone to turn on the heater, is a totally different starting point.
Yeah, which is absolutely valid. But it can be really hard to do, especially if you haven't had that modeled for you in childhood by your primary caregivers, right? I, for a long time, really struggled with asking for help or like communicating my needs or my desires, my wants. And it would play out in my friendships, my relationships, in work and everything. Yeah. And so I'd just be like frustrated and resentful that the world wouldn't not cater to me. It's the unspoken expectations. It's I expect you to have considered me and do this thing already before I ask you to do it. Yeah. I'm going to hold resentment towards you for not reading my mind.
Yes, I can relate to that so much. What I've observed with me and my mum, at least, is my mum had that expectation of unspoken needs that she wanted me to do, but it went the other way as well. So it was things like, if I was sick, if I had exams, she would cook my favourite foods, and it was never something I said. She would always just do it, and I grew up with that. Oh, if I need something, I'm feeling unwell, I'm feeling stressed, the people who love me will give me all this extra stuff. And then, same, I would go into the world and be like, no one understands.
No one cares about me.
But actually, it was just a crazy expectation. Yeah. Like, they were being super extra attentive in the first place. Yeah.
So how do you feel like that has changed now? Do you feel like you're better at asking for what you want? What was the process to learn how to communicate that? Because it can be a scary thing.
It is really hard, but I wanted to hear a bit more about your version of having that expectation, like you said, at work, with friends. What did it look like?
Well, growing up, for me, I was like hyper independent growing up because my parents were busy, my sister was busy, and so I just did everything myself, and so I wouldn't communicate anything to anyone ever. I remember in high school I was like just feeling really depressed. At 15, 16, 17, I was very depressed. I remember this one morning I went to school and I just didn't want to talk to anyone, so I sat outside and was just sulking. And I really wanted someone to come up to me and ask me what's going on, like how I am, even though I probably wouldn't know what to say. And actually someone did come up to me and was like, you okay? And I'm like, yep. I didn't know how to communicate how I was feeling. I learned that 5-6 years ago. I didn't know how to ask for what I needed. I didn't know what I needed. And so it was like, even if someone had reached out, which someone did reach out, it was like, well, I don't even know how to ask for it because it was never demonstrated to me. I was taught to keep everything to myself, bottle things up, don't show that you're not okay. And that, I feel like there's still residual that I'm working on. I'm trying to be more open with friends and talking about my problems and asking for advice and things like that, which I never used to do. And that probably reflects the depth of a lot of my past friendships and relationships. But yes, I remember even in relationships, I'd never talk about the things that annoyed me or that troubled me. And then it'd just be like this underlying resentment. And then slowly you just grow apart and then you just start having all these fights and you don't know
even why you're having these fights.
I can see how it happens, like you said, just hyper independence if you're used to keeping it all doing everything yourself. So then you first, what did you do to move past that? How's your communication evolved?
Cheat. I asked you first. Therapy helped a lot. I remember it was my second therapist, and it was a EMDR therapist, which is eye movement desensitization reprocessing.
Yeah.
Which is like a trauma focused therapy. It was a time where I wanted to move out, but I felt so guilty for moving out because I felt like I was abandoning my parents. I really needed, I was not getting along with my parents. We were constantly fighting. I was also building my business at the time. I felt like I couldn't be the best version of myself to be the best person to help other people. And my therapist was like, do you feel like you're not worthy of a person if you don't satisfy your parents' needs? At first it was like, no, I think I'm worthy, because that's the thing that people tell you and you're like, yes, I should believe that. But deep down, all of a sudden I started crying. That cry was like, oh, I'm being seen for what I haven't spoken to anyone about because I felt like it was so shameful. Not feeling worthy is already something that a lot of us don't admit, but a lot of us have that feeling, and that stops us from being able to ask for our needs, do what we truly desire. So that was the kind of the pinpoint memory that I have that really changed my perspective of how to ask for what I want.
Whoa.
Went deep so fast. I didn't expect to share that story. But...
Oh, no, thank you for sharing. And I think there's so much to relate to in your story, and I think that is such a common Asian child struggle, is the moving out of home. The first time I went to get a mental health care plan, I remember the GP also said that. It was like, can you just move out? No, it's not that easy. No, thank you for sharing. It is very real, like that, the feelings of guilt, am I abandoning them? Like we were saying, you played such a helper role, so it's like, what are they going to do if I'm not there to help them?
Exactly.
And whatever else your parents might have for you to feel too. No, I relate.
Throwing the ball back at you.
On the how have I improved?
Yeah.
How have I improved my communication? My parents had that indirect, implicit communication style of read between the lines, not really just saying what they want. My dad, I feel like he knew 3 dishes, and one of them was bun bao, like steamed buns. And I remember that he used to get really annoyed whenever he would make them because he was like, where's your mum? She's not here helping me. And I was like, oh, did you ask her? And he's like, well, no, I didn't ask her. But she should have known when I brought out the steamer. And I was like, you didn't ask her. What do you expect? And that gave me the insight on what is going on in his mind. And I think I also absorbed that of not expressing how I feel and just assuming other people would get it. I feel like I expected, let's say, like teachers, the other authority figures to just pick up on what I needed and stuff like that. But no, that didn't happen. Okay. If you really need something, if you need to go to the bathroom, if you need something, no one will notice. You have to tell them. And I think I just realized, okay, these things are waiting for people to just pick up on what I need. And then me getting super grumpy, passive aggressive, it's just not working.
Passive aggressive. Oh my God. Yeah.
It's just not working. It's no win for anyone.
Yeah.
So I think I started to slowly get more open, sharing my thoughts and then feelings and then needs. And that's why I'm so passionate about non-stories. I feel like when you get used to taking up space, just filling the air with just talking, and it might be like a 2-minute non-story, and then you're like, nothing bad happened. So yeah, next time I can talk about I have this opinion. And then you also learn through exposure, gradual exposure, nothing bad happens when you share your opinion as well. Now I can share my feelings, and now I can share like my actual needs.
Yeah, I love that. What was it? Thoughts, feelings, needs.
But starting off with nothing, non-stories.
Non-stories. I love that. Actually, this reminds me of recently, I was organizing dinner with a friend. Sometimes the friends, often they're women as well, and they'll just be like, oh, I'm easy with anything. Oh, I'm easy with any place. Oh, I'm easy with any time. And then the responsibility is put on you to make all the choices and all the decisions and wonder, oh, is she going to be happy with this? What do I want? Because I'm a lot more comfortable with communicating what I want now and knowing what I want and just saying it. And I expect or hope that the other person is comfortable with what they need and know what they want or don't want and can communicate that, and then together we make a plan. But it felt like such a burden to be like, I have to do everything because you want to essentially people please me. And it doesn't feel good for either of us. I feel like in the end, because if we went out for Italian and she was actually like, I don't actually want Italian, you said that you wanted it, and then we go out and she's this wasn't really what I wanted. I'm like, I could have done Japanese, I could have done Viet, like I could have done anything, but you gave me the responsibility of choosing everything because you didn't want to burden me with what you wanted. It's extremely frustrating. I think it's such a common thing for women.
Definitely. My cousin, she's always been really good at knowing what she wants, and I think food was a good example. And I remember that because she knew what she wanted food-wise, that's just one domain, other people saw her as blunt and direct. So that there is definitely a gendered aspect.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that actually is such a good point of how structurally we are pushed into this people pleaser role.
Yeah.
We're labeled as demanding and blunt and inconsiderate. If you say what you want as a woman, and especially as an Asian woman as well, because we're expected to be passive and not take up space.
Literally. I have resonated and internalized all of that. I was that people pleaser, don't want to inconvenience, burden anyone.
Same.
And it used to lead to just the worst outcomes. Like in terms of socially with friends, I would struggle to say no if I'm tired, but I don't want to have to reschedule again. Like I feel really bad. So I just say yes. But then what would happen is as we get closer and closer to the time of catching up, it would really dawn on me how tired I was. And I still felt like I didn't have a good reason to say no. And then I would have to pull out I'm sick and I can't make it. And then cancelling last minute and lying is even worse. But it just happened so many times where I was like, I can't continue like this.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, all right, I'll just try something else. Maybe that scary bit where I'm like, I can't actually make it today, bring it forward to can we change the date and see what happens.
And you know what's so funny? Most of the time when someone is, oh, can we reschedule? Oh my God.
Yeah, it's usually literally no issues. It works out for the better.
Exactly. Because it's honestly, most of us are just chronically tired in this capitalist society. That's so depressing to say. But yes, I would love to see you. But if I get a surprise night in, I'm not mad. I become such a homebody and I'm not mad. I get to see you in another time when there's a little bit more time and maybe we can prepare a little bit more.
Totally. Yeah.
But what you were saying before in terms of women get labelled as when we do ask for what we want, it reminded me of another thing that's really helped me be more outspoken, and it's doing anti-racism work.
Okay, tell me more.
2020 Black Lives Matter movement was when...
really big and in the news.
Yes. That was when I first started actually learning about anti-racism. We all think, oh, I'm not a racist, I don't want to be a racist, but until you do the anti-racism work, we're all racist. We're all unintentionally complicit.
Perpetuating harm.
Yes, exactly. Upholding the systems of oppression. And you can really tell when someone has done the work, as in has intentionally read books or engaged in anti-racism work, and who hasn't. But reading the book White Fragility by...
Robin DiAngelo, I think.
Yes, that's the one, which is not the best one because it's written by a white person. Didn't know that at the time, but now I know that because I've done the anti-racism work. Oh my God. That took me so long to get through because it was just like realizing my whole life, seeing the ways that white fragility plays out throughout my life, which is essentially how white people or whiteness in people who may not be white silences people of color and their anger or frustration or resistance to oppression. And it prioritizes white comfort over the experience of people of color. And I just saw how I had been silencing myself because I wanted to keep everyone else comfortable and not bring up race and not call out microaggressions and not call out those really subtle, oh, it was just a joke kind of comments. Something happened to me throughout those pages because it was around the time of COVID. And once I started seeing people again, I was just firing off. I was like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I will call this out. I will make a scene. It was like, I can actually like somatically feel it. It was like a weight had lifted off of me. Like the weight that had made me be and feel small and keep myself small and not speak and not take up space, it had lifted. And I was like, fuck this, I'm taking up all the space. I'm gonna make you uncomfortable. I'm gonna be comfortable myself. Yeah, so that was a huge one.
Interesting. So it was really that learning about the systems of oppression that we're all in helped you understand, like, we've been encouraged to not speak up, and this is your resistance. We've been forced. We've been oppressed.
Yeah, before
well, everyone. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
When you were saying that, I just remembered when I was on the tram once, I saw this example of that really inspired me. It was basically like a nurse probably finishing her shift, and on the two seats, like someone has their bag half on a seat, and she just sat in there anyway and was like, excuse me, can you move your bag? And they did, and this guy was manspreading. She's like, excuse me, your legs are over here, can you move them? And then he did, and I was just like, oh, it can be that simple. And she's not like rude, mean. She looks tired because she probably just finished a big shift. Yeah. She's allowed to have a seat and just be comfortable.
Yeah, I love that. It's such a good example. And it's so helpful. That it's a really good tip to just start with small things. If I'm at a dinner table, I'll ask someone, oh, hey, can you pass the salt shaker? As opposed to reaching over, even if it was like a reachable distance, just asking for like helpful small things.
Yes, I'm such a big fan of starting with baby steps.
And then you get to the big boy stuff later.
Yes. Yeah. By then you feel more ready.
Yeah.
And more support, hopefully.
Yeah.
So then I guess our discussion has started from boundaries with our parents into boundaries in our everyday life.
Yeah.
And how we've learned to evolve our communication styles. Do you have any tips on how to improve the dynamic with you and your parents so that it's not so self-sacrificey all the way around?
Yeah, with my parents, my biggest kind of challenge with them is like them asking for help in very inconvenient times, like I'm in the middle of work or something like that. And even if I'm not in the middle of work, I have something to do, or even if I've scheduled rest, because my parents don't understand the purpose of rest. So I just always bring it back to work or study because that's what they respect. They respect that more than like your autonomy to be like, this is my time and this is how I want to use it, unfortunately.
That's their language.
It is their language, yeah. Because recently, I have a story for this. My cousin was in the kitchen after dinner time and she was just making a quick meal for herself. She had frozen fish that she put in the air fryer, and my mum was like, oh, you shouldn't be eating that, you should be eating fresher foods because it's better for your skin, blah blah blah. And my cousin was just taking it because obviously you don't really want to be rude to your aunt. She lives with us, her and her sister. And I was like, she's been at school all day. She's just come home. Like, when does she have time to cook? And my mom immediately backed off. And then she started feeling a bit guilty for putting that on her. So she was like, oh, there's this food. Do you want this? Do you want that? And that's my mum's way of showing love. And I was like to my cousin, just if you want her to back off, just say you had school. Say something about school. Say something about studying, because she'll immediately back off.
So that's the, like, their language, what they understand kind of thing.
Exactly. If you're just like, oh, I was tired and I didn't have anything to eat, or like, I just like this, it tastes good, she'll go on and on. My cousin was like, oh, I put it in the air fryer though, so there's not a lot of oil. And my mum was like, yeah, but blah, going on and on. As soon as I said to the study thing, no comment.
No. Interesting. That's a tip and a hack.
Yeah. Do you have any tips or hacks to set boundaries with parents?
I think for me, I emphasize the reinforcing boundaries, because what I found was when I first learned about boundaries and things like that, whether it was at work or at home, I tried to set the boundary. I told this person I'm not available, but they still put a meeting in there anyway. And then I realized it's a lot about the reinforcing, and especially with family where the ingrained dynamics or expectations are just so deep that just saying something once is really like nothing.
So true.
So it really, like that example I gave before of telling my mum, if you test me, I will always fail. I feel like I've said that 100 times now. And it has reduced. I don't think she's tested me in a really long time. And sticking to your boundary, if you've got a little bit of a rule system for yourself, I can help my mum if I'm genuinely available at that time. Or if she asks me while I'm sleeping, I won't respond in the way, because that's my boundary, or just whatever like rule system you have, but actually sticking to it as well.
Oh my gosh, that's so true, because really 90% of boundaries is enforcing them. There's a saying, people don't cross your boundaries, you cross your own boundaries by letting people cross your boundaries.
One other thing I would add is that whole cultural aspect to it, is that we've spoken so much about boundaries, and I know that I do come from like a Western individualist mindset when it comes to boundaries. That's where I've learned it from. So it is very individual focused, but it's not simple, not straightforward in a lot of the collectivist cultures or immigrant families, and boundaries looks or feels different as well. And I think I've been trying to teach my mum about setting boundaries for herself with her family. Like, instead of boundaries, what I see is lots of avoidance. She'll just let the phone ring, not say I'm busy right now, but just avoid. And I've been trying to rephrase it as that you putting your boundary there is actually you respecting yourself, because respect is something, it's like her language, she understands. You respect so many people in your life, your parents, your older sisters, but do you respect yourself? And you're allowed to respect yourself. So you're allowed to say, I respect myself and I'm not going to pick up the phone for my sister that was really rude to me. I'll talk to her in person, but I won't pick up the phone. Like, you're allowed to, or you're allowed to tell her.
It's so true, because I think what you're saying there is upholding your boundaries through action.
Yes.
So it's not like we're just saying, oh, I'm not talking to you because of this. And then, your sister calls and you're like, oh, I have to pick up. She's not respecting my boundaries. But it's like, you have to respect your own boundaries. You have to respect yourself by not picking up that call. And that is enforcing the boundary.
Yeah.
Good luck to us and all of those out there who want to start or get better at enforcing boundaries with parents who are maybe immigrants or just from a different culture and doesn't understand them in the way that we do as second gen.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I'm taking away, is good luck to us all. And that it's possible. It's possible to have the balance.
And it's an ongoing journey.
Oh, yeah, it never ends.
Thank you for sipping along as we've been spilling the jasmine tea. Navigating boundaries with ethnic parents isn't always easy, and you don't need to do it alone. Your ethnic friends and family have probably had similar experiences, so we invite you to share this episode with them as a starting point to spill your own tea. You'd never know what you can learn just by starting a conversation. And if you thought the tea in this episode was hot and tasty, we would love if you could leave us a review for this podcast, Spilling the Jasmine Tea, so that we can reach more people in the Asian diaspora community to help us enrich our health and well-being with honest conversations. That's it from us for now. We'll be back in a fortnight to spill more jasmine tea.